Hey everyone, and welcome to my channel, Book Girl Cowrie. I am Cowrie. I've started this new booktube channel because I recently got over a very long book slump, and I have been inspired by booktube and booktop to get back into reading, and one book in particular which I'll talk about in another video, but today we're just going to talk about my reading journey and getting to know me through that. So I learned to read when I was 3 years old. I have always loved to read my entire life. I really don't remember much from when I was younger, but I do remember that when I was really young, I really loved the Berenstain Bears. I'm pretty sure I read every Berenstain Bears book that was available at the time. And then after that, I remember really getting into reading as a 4th or 5th grader. I'm pretty sure it's 4th grade. I became a library helper at my elementary school's library, and I loved it. We got to help do a little cleaning up and like putting back books and organization, and then we just got to read. I literally would sit and read for hours. My elementary school library was a little weird because it was a literal hallway. Like in the middle was the librarian's desk and some tables, and the books cases and all the books, they lined the walls, and there were some in the middle, but mostly it was like books in a bookcase on the wall, and then the little door to a classroom. So you would see me sitting on the floor in the hallway reading books. During that time, I absolutely fell in love with the Boxcar Children series. So this was my absolute favorite book series as a young child. This is when I really got into mystery. I absolutely devoured the Boxcar Children book series. I read them constantly, one after another. I can't honestly remember a time in the 4th grade where I wasn't reading a Boxcar Children book. And then of course, I love to go to the Scholastic Book Fair, where I got a bunch of the American Girl books, which was another thing that I loved in elementary school. I also read about the Animorphs, Goosebumps, just a bunch of simple chapter books, but I absolutely just devoured pretty much anything you put in my hands. I honestly didn't care what it was. I remember being really into poetry when I was in the 4th and the 5th grade. I would go into the poetry section and just grab whatever poetry books that I could get, and I would read them front to back, even if I had no clue what was going on. Like, some of the poems were really beautiful, and some of them were beyond my years. I didn't really understand them, but I didn't care. I read them all. So many poetry books. In middle school and high school, I still was reading a lot. I remember that I got really into like werewolves and vampires in middle school and high school, and I honestly could not tell you what any of those books were. Like, none of them. I remember being super into Buffy the Vampire Slayer and really loving the movie Interview with a Vampire, and I'm pretty sure that's where that stemmed from. But as far as remembering books, I couldn't tell you. But I don't know if it was the end of middle school, beginning of high school, I got the Harry Potter book set. I'm not sure if it was for my birthday or for Christmas, but I've had this for literally more than half my life at this point in time. My uncle bought this for me, and it started an basically obsession. I read every Harry Potter book in quick succession until I got to book 4, which is The Goblet of Fire. If I can get it out of the box, I probably cannot. It's really stuck in here. Goblet of Fire. Some people love this book. I was dying. I literally was dying trying to read this. At the time, it was the thickest book I had ever read, and for me, it dragged. It dragged so much in the beginning. I actually love Harry Potter, but I DNF'd this book twice. It was just, it dragged too much in the beginning, and I couldn't do it. I didn't read this book until the movie came out. So I watched the movie and absolutely loved the movie, and then I was finally able to read the Goblet of Fire book, and it was really good, but they changed a lot between the book and the movie, and that was pretty much the first time that I realized like how much stuff they were changing. I did what a lot of people did, went to the releases, the parties. I was so into Harry Potter, and I just was awe-inspired because I remember like reading articles and seeing like news clips where you see all these kids and teenagers and adults just walking around with Harry Potter books lining around the corner to get them, and just how it was inspiring a whole generation to read, because I feel like at the time reading was kind of going out. I remember when I got my first job, or I think it was my second job, like I remember asking people like what they like to read, and I was pretty much the only person at my job that read anything. So I'm really just happy to see how like it's really becoming more of a thing again to be a reader. After Harry Potter, pretty much it was the gateway for me for fantasy, because before that I read a lot of mystery, read a lot of sci-fi, but not really like fantasy. It was magic and dragons and all of that. I mean, obviously werewolves and vampires, definitely fantasy, but it's a whole other different ball game than reading books that have magic systems in them. I met my best friend, and she is an absolute bibliophile. She has a crazy amount of books and bookshelves, and she introduced me to Tamora Pierce, which I absolutely love her Circle Open series. It is one of my favorite series and one of my favorite magic systems that I've read about outside of Harry Potter, which is pretty, I would say, general. And of course I've read her Lioness Rampant series, and I have a couple of her Wild Magic series books. I discovered a series called So You Want to Be a Wizard, which is quite intriguing, and just read a lot of books that had more magic in them. I branched out a lot, I think, during that time, because I discovered Susan Fisher Staples, who wrote Sheep's Fire, which I absolutely love that book. And Shubhanu, I love that. Laurie Holtz Anderson, I discovered. She wrote a book called Fever. If you can see, I think it's like 1873 or 1880. I have the book, but I currently can't remember the exact title. And she also wrote Speak. If you have never read Speak by Laurie Holtz Anderson, you definitely need to. I feel like everyone should read that book once in their life. So, if you take nothing from that but that recommendation, please read Laurie Halse Anderson Speak. It is such an amazing piece of literature, in my personal opinion. Uh, and I also went back to my mystery roots and I got into Agatha Christie. I absolutely love Agatha Christie. She is such an amazing author. I read a bunch of her Hercule Poirot, Tommy and Tuppence, and during that time I also was recommended or introduced to Nero Wolfe, and just I've always loved mystery since I was younger, so I ate the books up. I have a ton of Agatha Christie books on my bookshelf that's in the living room. This bookshelf right here actually has like all the newer books that I've purchased recently and just a few like older books that I have, and this one is in my bedroom. After that, I got into another author who I have her books on this bookshelf, but Jennifer McMahon. I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly, but I read this book in 2014, Promise Not to Tell, and I bought it recently because I don't remember the details of this book very well, but I remember the book well enough that I wanted to read it again, and I could not remember the title, I couldn't remember the author, but the book just stuck with me. So I went on a website, which I can't remember the website at this time, but you can post and somebody can help you find book. The worst description ever of this book, but the person found it in like less than a day, and I was like, that's it, that's the book. But I will discuss this in another video because I am going to reread it along with another one of her books and do a book review on it. I say a lot. I also found author Robert Liparulo, I think that's how you pronounce his name, and he wrote the Dream House King series. When I tell you, this series had me in a chokehold, but unfortunately this is right before I fell into the reading slump that literally lasted for years. I don't even know if it can be really considered a reading slump, but I hadn't read any physical books or Kindle books or listened to any audiobooks in years. Not to say I wasn't reading, I was reading, and I was reading fan fiction. Everybody reads fan fiction nowadays. Just, you have your comforts that you like, and that's what you read, and that's fine. But when I tell you that series is so good, it is so good. It's like historical thriller fantasy, I would describe it. I mean, I'm not honestly probably not that great at describing genres, but these books had me on the edge of my seat from book 1 to book 4, I think I got to, and I think there are 6 books. And then we fast forward to now. Like I said, I was reading a bunch of fan fiction, doing a lot of writing with my best friends and other friends, and I really wasn't reading, but I honestly went to Barnes & Noble like a lot because my best friend's a bibliophile. We spent a lot of time in Barnes & Noble, and I I watched a lot of book talk videos in the past several months, and when I went in Barnes & Noble, I kept seeing this cover. This cover right here, every time I walked past it, I just was like, this is so intriguing. And of course, I picked it up, I read the back, and I literally have never been more intrigued by a cover. I feel like in my life, and it just sparked something in me. This book is The Atlas Six by Oliver Blake, and this right here, Knowledge is Carnage, is definitely one thing that just kind of like drew me in. I literally looked at this book every time I went in Barnes and Noble like 3 or 4 times before I decided I'm gonna read this book. And I, hadn't read a physical book in a really long time. So I decided to get it from the library, and as you can see, I now own the book, but we'll talk about that in another video. But that is my story. If you liked it, comment down below, subscribe if you want to see more videos by me. I will be doing a kind of like book haul because a lot of the books that I got recently are new, and a lot of them I got because of BookTok. And then we'll be going through the books that I got, and then we will be doing book reviews on the ones that I have read so far. I am going to try my hardest not to buy any more books before I read all of the ridiculous amount of books that I bought recently. But thanks for sticking around, and I will see you next time.